Hey folks, my name is Chris Wessel. Today, in the second part of our three-part series on tying tube flies, we're going to be tying a streamer pattern, and in particular it's going to be an egg sucking leech. I hold this pattern really near and dear to my heart as it's one of the first patterns I ever got good at tying way back in the day. I also really like this pattern because it's probably one of my most used for brook trout here on the east coast of Canada. So stay tuned, let's get on into it. Alright, so today we're going to be tying an egg sucking leech pattern. We're going to use a different style tube for this. This is a micro tube from Pro Sport Fisher. Basically, I'll get one of these out here now. What you have here is you have a tube up here for tying your body on. You have this stopper in the back, and then you have a slot with a little bit of a tapered nipple on it for where your junction tube will slip over and keep your hook in place, but we'll get on into that in a minute. So we could actually start by flaring this. Actually, you know what, let's just flare it right off the bat, then we'll know where we're. So if you remember from the last episode, we use fire just to flare it out a bit, but be careful not to burn your tube or melt it too much. And we can just use our needle then to make sure that that is free and clear, which it is. Alright, let's set up now. As I mentioned in the intro on this, this pattern holds a special place in my heart. It's when I was first learning to tie flies, this is one of the first patterns that I feel like maybe not perfected, but I did really well on. And what had happened was I was living in Nova Scotia at the time, and we were fishing for smallmouth bass in the LaHave River. And I had an olive egg sucking leech that I had lost on a fish, and I couldn't find the pattern anywhere. Prior to this, my grandfather had taught me how to tie flies. I had all the gear, but I just kind of got out of it. And so anyway, I went to the hardware store actually in Bridgewater, Nova Scotia, and picked up some feathers and stuff, and came home and started tying again, and just kind of fell in love with it all over again. So this pattern got me back into fly tying. So we're using some marabou for the tail on this pattern, and I like a little bit of a longer tail on these. This is kind of preference. I'm sure some people like them shorter, but so we're just going to put a light wrap around it 2 times. And we're going to splay this out, because one of the benefits of having a tube is that, you know, you don't have a hook and stuff to worry about there right now. It's basically, I don't know if symmetrical would be the word, but it's the same thing all the way around, so you can just kind of spread that out. I'm going to get rid of this extra stuff here. Anyway, so I ended up tying a olive egg sucking leech, and did really well on it. I think it blew apart after a couple fish, but I had a few tied up, and yeah, I loved it. Alright, and now we're going to use some large chenille. I think this is a size 1 if I'm not mistaken. Some people tie their feather in back here to wrap up over. I like tying it in from the front because I find I get a better palmering of my feather when I do that. just gonna tie that part in there. This is one of those multi-species flies that just seems like every fish wants to eat it. So next we're gonna get some feathers. Bugger packs work great for this, but these shore fishing genetic rooster mini packs, size 2, I think it's size 2 to 6. Awesome. This is what they're meant for, in my opinion. They cost significantly less than a bugger pack as well. And we just pick out something with a little bit of nice long gnarly hackle. That's how I like it. And we're just going to tie this in. And what I do is I take that leftover stem, I bend that over, and I tie that in as well. And that's just going to give it a little bit of extra hold. This pattern also shouldn't be counted out for Atlantic salmon, especially in the fall. Just keep that in mind. Tie it in purple and you're in the money. Alright, so it's called an egg sucking leech because it looks like a leech sucking on an egg. This is going to be our egg material. It's just chenille. You know what? Maybe we'll actually wrap this feather first. I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm getting excited for the egg. And we're just going to bring our thread up through. Get rid of that extra. And just bring that back through. That's just going to secure your hackle in there. There's not much guarding it from teeth. On fish and stuff, so you want to, and I'll kind of put a little bit of head cement on my anchor points too, and that'll help. Alright, now we'll get into our egg portion. As you guys can see, this is such an easy pattern to tie, but it's so effective. If I was getting a child into fly tying now, this is exactly what I would put them on, because then they could easily see what their creation can do as well, because there's a lot of species that's going to grab onto this pattern. And we're just going to try to tie that up. Keep it away from our flare we did. Hopefully that works. Come on. Alright, so just while I have this on here now, I'm going to, like I said before, I just want to kind of put a little head cement around where we have our anchor points in on that hackle. I'm going to put usually I would pull the tube down before I started putting head cement on, just so I don't cement it to the other end of that pin, but I should be alright. I got time. Alright. I'm just going to pull that up so it doesn't get stuck on. So now we have our back end here, and I like to put on my junction tube while it's still on here, just because it guides the junction tube directly onto the tube. This is what pro sport fisher calls the hook guide, which I guess would be the proper name for it. I call it a junction tube. And this is a size medium. These are black. You can get them in different colors. But basically their purpose is just to be there to keep your hook in place like a sleeve. So we slip that in there, and if you can see, try to part that so you can see a little bit better, but it just kind of slips over that, and then we can take that off. And we're going to get a hook now, and you just kind of hold on to your sleeve because it's rubbery. It's not rigid. You really gotta kind of give it some stabilization when you're putting your hook in there. And you can kind of pull that marabou down a bit. You can wet it. And there you go. So this is an egg sucking leech. They're hideous looking. It's not a good way to show off your how pretty of a fly you can tie, obviously, but the fish do love them. And if you don't have any of these in your box, I highly recommend you have some in there. Just one of those patterns is pretty much going to work for everything. Thank you guys for stopping by and watching the video. I really appreciate it. If you get a chance and you haven't already, hit the subscribe button on my channel. I'd really appreciate it. It helps me out. And we'll be back next time for the last part of this series. Thank you.